Hello everybody and welcome to this detailed walkthrough video on AQA English Language Paper 1 Question 3. If you want my shorter video, it's animated, 5 minutes, I'll link it in the description. So this question is an 8-mark question analysing the writer's use of structure, and the assessment objective is AO2, explain, comment on and analyse how writers use language and structure to achieve effects and influence readers, using relevant subject terminology to support their view. But just as question 2 focused only on the language element of this assessment objective, question 3 focuses only on the structure element. So what does it actually mean to analyse structure in an extract? Well, put simply, structure is about how the text is organised, the order things take place in. Structure analysis is less about what's happening in a source and more about where it's happening and why. And there's a subtle difference between the what and the where, but it's absolutely essential that you get your head around it. Time and time again, the exam reports point out the importance of asking yourself, how does reading about this at this point add to my understanding of the text as a whole? Now let's look at a sample question based on the extract you can download for free, linked in the description. You now need to think about the whole of the source. This text is from the middle of a novel. How has the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning of the source, how and why the writer changes this focus as the source develops, any other structural features that interest you. 8 marks. Now, I just want to pause here and mention a really important point that's often overlooked, which is from the start of the question, you now need to think about the whole of the source. That word in bold, whole, is what I want to talk about. So let's imagine in your exam the extract starts with this amazing narrative hook in the opening sentence and you just write about that, nothing else. Well then you're in trouble because you failed to address the whole of the source. Numerous past exam reports point out that you'll be limited in the mark you can achieve if you only write about one part of the text. You've got to explore shifts and development across the text. And it's actually a pretty easy mistake to make because, once again, this is an 8-mark question which you should spend only around 10 minutes on, so there's not a huge amount of time to spend on question 3, but you must write about the use of structure across the whole of the source. Now, I've thought long and hard about what to put in this extended video because there are a number of different approaches to this question and how to analyse structure in an extract. And what I've decided is I'll cover a few different approaches and you can pick the one that suits you. Now, one approach that we've seen referenced in the exam reports on numerous occasions is that of looking at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And of course, you can understand that this pretty much seems to cover the 3 bullet points and also will of course cover the whole text. But there are a couple of potential issues with this approach. Firstly, we mustn't just retell the events and basically paraphrase what happens at the beginning, the middle, and the end. What we have to do, of course, is look at why something happens at that point in the text. So it wouldn't be an analysis of structure to simply write, at the beginning of the extract, the narrator's walking on a causeway and decides to turn back due to the risk of getting lost. In the middle of the extract, the narrator describes their continued struggle through the mist. At the end of the extract, the narrator finally makes it back to the house. This just tells us what's happening rather than why it's happening at that specific point of the text. So we need to ask ourselves, for example, well, why does it start this way? Why does this happen then? And why does it end this way? And that might help us to come up with something better. So if we think about the beginning, we could think, okay, this is how it starts, but why does it start that way? We might come up with something like, by starting with the narrator's decision to turn back on the causeway due to the fear of getting very quickly lost, the writer immediately immerses the reader in a sense of uncertainty and risk. This decision is crucial as it not only introduces the central conflict of the narrative, the struggle against nature and the unknown, but also establishes the tone of apprehension that fills the entire extract. The reader, like the narrator, doesn't get a moment's peace or respite from the tense experience. Now, one exam report actually said that some students were held back by restricting their comments to just the beginning, middle and end, as there were other parts of the text that had some really strong structural points in them. So beginning, middle and end is one approach, but you don't want to ignore something structural just because it comes in, let's say, paragraph 2. Another idea is to have a set of questions you consider as you read the extract, and these might be something like this. What is the first thing the writer wants me to think about? Does this create a specific mood? How does the beginning of the text prepare the reader for what is to come? In what order are events or ideas presented in the text, and why? How does that order influence the reader's understanding or engagement? Are there any noticeable shifts in time, location, or perspective? How do these shifts impact the reader's interpretation or experience of the text? How do structural elements contribute to the build-up of tension or focus in the text? How does the structure of the text reveal or conceal character development? How do structural choices impact the reader's empathy or understanding of characters? How does the text conclude? And what is the impact of this ending? Does the ending leave the reader with questions, or is it more resolved? What elements of the structure contribute more significantly to the text's overall impact? These are all useful questions to consider, but obviously you won't have time to write about all of these things. They're just the sorts of things you want to think as you're looking at the extract. Now, question 3 is the only question in the paper where we know what it will say before we even get into the exam. Every year it's worded exactly the same. The only bit that changes is obviously it says the text is from the beginning or the middle or whatever it is, but everything else is the same. So we know it's going to say you now need to think about the whole of the source. How's the writer structured the text to interest you as a reader? You could write about what the writer focuses your attention on at the beginning of the source, how and why the writer changes this focus as the source develops, any other structural features that interest you, 8 marks. We know all of that remains the same. So because of that, it's not a bad idea to actually consider the structure of the extract when you read it for the first time at the start of the exam. Yes, you'll just be reading to see what the extract is about, but if you think you can do it, why not also consider the structure of the text as you read it for the first time? That way, when you get to question 3, you'll already have some ideas of what to write about. Now, as an 8-mark question, there isn't going to be enough time to reread the extract looking at structure when you get to question 3. You'll ideally need to have some ideas already, which you can then look back at the extract to refine and develop. Now, let's have a quick overview of some of the most common structural features. Flashbacks and flash forwards, where we go back in time or forward in time from the current moment in the story. Shifts in focus and perspective, where the focus changes perhaps from outside to in, or from setting to character, from action to dialogue. Zooming in and out, where the description moves like a camera, zooming in close to one detail, then zooming out to a broader, bigger description. Repetitions, where something appears throughout the text, for example, continual references to mist, as we see in our extract. Cyclical structure, where a story begins or ends in the same place. Foreshadowing, an advanced hint of something that's to come later, and on it goes. However, it is important to point out that the source may have none of these. Structure is all about the shifting, the moving, the changing focus of an extract. You might only be able to write about more subtle points, such as alternating between action and dialogue, building up of tension, or the move from outside to in. Whatever you find, it's not enough to just spot these structural features and even to add some generic comments on effect, such as it draws you in or it makes you want to read on. No, once again, just like in question 2, analysis of effects should be precise and contextualized to a specific point in the text. So with all that in mind, why not pause the video, read the extract and look for structural features, and then let's see what we find. I'm going to list a few things, but what I'd like you to do is to put in the comment section anything else that you've spotted. Well, of course, as I've already talked about at the opening, there's this shift from the idea of sticking to the path to going back. Now, why did the text start this way? Within 3 sentences, there's a shift, a change, and those are the key words for structure analysis: shift, change. It's also clear that there's repetition in the text, with continual references to mist. Now, repetition is an interesting one. In analysing the text, it's crucial to distinguish between language analysis, suitable for question 2, and structure analysis, required for question 3. So the repeated use of mist throughout the text is a notable structural feature. This repetition isn't about the symbolism or connotation of the word mist, which would be a focus for language analysis, the kind of thing we look at in question 2. Instead, we need to explore how this structural choice of continually repeating this image throughout the text affects the reader's experience. Also, notice the cliffhanger ending. The text finishes with the narrator's seemingly safe return, but the tension continues. Phrases like shuddering at the dreadful thoughts and fumbled my way blindly sustain an air of dread, and this unresolved ending, marked by the eerie silence and the lingering doubts about the pony and trap, keeps the reader in suspense. It's a cliffhanger. It doesn't give us a clear ending. It's not just about ending the narrative, it's about leaving the reader pondering or questioning, and this is a deliberate structural technique to keep the reader engaged, making them think about the possibilities beyond the text. So now let's put that into an answer, and of course, just like with question 2, it's unlikely that you'll be able to write about all the things you spot. So you want to think about, which points can I write about in the most perceptive way? I need to make sure I'm writing about the effect. I need to make sure I'm writing about the whole text. You might come up with something like this. The opening, with the narrator's decision to turn back on the causeway due to the fear of getting very quickly lost, immediately immerses the reader in a sense of uncertainty and risk. This decision to move so swiftly to uncertainty is crucial, as it not only introduces the central conflict of the narrative, the struggle against nature and the unknown, but also establishes the tone of apprehension that fills the entire text. The reader, like the narrator, doesn't get a moment's peace or respite from the tense experience. The narrative then shifts to the walk back to the house, structurally enveloping the reader in the continual threat of the marsh, obscured by the mist. The repetitive reference to the mist, shifting, swirling mist played tricks, functions throughout the text to trap the reader in the same claustrophobic fear as the narrator. This continual repetition means that the reader, like the narrator, is ensnared in an environment from which there seems to be no escape, heightening the narrative's suspense. The extract ends with the narrator's return to safety, but the tension persists. Descriptions such as shuddering at the dreadful thoughts and fumbled his way blindly maintain the sense of terror. The unsettling silence and the uncertainty over the existence of the pony and trap leave the reader with unresolved questions, finishing with a cliffhanger ending that leaves the reader with just as many questions as the narrator. The narrator's anxiety suggests the presence of danger and leaves the reader in a state of apprehension. So there's my answer. Why not put your answer to the question in the comments section? If you like this more detailed approach to these questions, then do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching.